So Mario's public execution has been done. Mario's 35th anniversary celebration is over in a somewhat traumatic way. Games being removed such as Super Mario 3D All-Stars, can't buy it on the eShop, can't buy it in a store. The Game & Watch featuring Mario once again also has been pulled from store shelves. Super Mario Bros. 35, the Battle Royale style Mario game that everyone loved to play online, gone once again because Nintendo is obviously getting rid of Mario's 35th anniversary celebration to celebrate another 35th anniversary, the Legend of Zelda franchise. Now to me, Nintendo has always sort of held Zelda to a higher standard than Mario when it comes to things like celebrations, so I thought it would be fun to talk about what we know about Zelda's 35th anniversary and what I expect to see Nintendo do for Zelda's 35th anniversary as well. What's going on, guys? I'm RGT85. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and be sure to like the video. But without any further ado, let's talk about what we know about the Legend of Zelda 35th anniversary and what we should sort of expect with it as well, with some predictions. So obviously we don't know a whole heck of a lot of what Nintendo is going to do for Zelda's 35th anniversary, but I think looking at Nintendo's track record and how they sort of do classic Zelda games throughout the years should sort of give you somewhat of an indication. Of course, there was a celebration on the GameCube where they released Ocarina of Time on the GameCube to sort of celebrate that game and one of Zelda's anniversaries. Of course, all of the Wii U games that came out, the HD version of Wind Waker, the HD version of Twilight Princess. It's clear that Nintendo obviously does a lot more with the back catalog of Zelda games when you compare it to something like the back catalog of Mario games. Now, as far as actual concrete stuff, we of course have Skyward Sword hitting the Nintendo Switch in the month of July. Skyward Sword is the one mainline Zelda game I have never finished, originally released on the Wii, and I liked the game, but I just didn't like the motion controls. I know, they're not bad once you get used to them, but still, I like a traditional control experience, and just playing Zelda in large chunks using motion controls didn't really work for me. So to see that they've improved upon this and made a more traditional control scheme with the second analog stick for Skyward Sword on the Nintendo Switch is a big win in my opinion. Another thing that of course Skyward Sword had going against it was the fact that yes, it had a very beautiful art style, but it was on a non-HD console, so you didn't really get to see clean textures, see all these colors pop and whatnot, which on the Nintendo Switch you will be able to do. Now of course there's been lots of debate on whether or not this is actually worth $60. Is Nintendo overcharging for this? But to me it's worth $60 just because of the quality of life improvements, and I honestly feel like there is going to be some additional stuff added into the game as well. Maybe not on the grand scale of something like Bowser's Fury, which was added into Super Mario 3D World, but I definitely think there's going to be some additional stuff that people even that have played through Skyward Sword a million times that or experienced this game are going to find new and exciting for them. And really, that's all we know about concrete stuff for the Legend of Zelda's 35th anniversary. Alright, so before we get into what I expect and predict Nintendo will do for Zelda's 35th anniversary, I'm going to give a huge thank you to Aspyr for sponsoring this video with their latest game, Star Wars Republic Commando, which is out on April 6th for the Nintendo Switch and PS4, which you can get more information on by clicking the link in the description box down below. Now this game takes place within the Clone Wars universe, and Star Wars Republic Commando is a unique Star Wars game in which it plays a lot like a first-person shooter in which you lead and designate tasks to a squad of Republic Commandos while blasting your way through various enemy types such as battle droids, flying insects from Geonosis, and much more. Star Wars Republic Commando for the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch features improved HD visuals, customizable controls, a pretty interesting story, and honestly, I've been playing this game quite a bit and it's just a lot of fun to play. Like I said, check out the link in the description box down below for more information on Star Wars Republic Commando, and once again, a huge thank you to Aspyr for sponsoring this video. Alright, so now it's time to get into the fun stuff, my predictions of what to expect. There's been one thing that I've been seeing on Twitter quite a bit that I actually feel like makes sense, and that would be a Game & Watch Zelda system. Look at what they did with the Game & Watch and the original Super Mario Bros. Nintendo released a nice little Game & Watch inspired console that of course would play Super Mario Bros. On it. Why wouldn't you want to do something like this for the Legend of Zelda? I think the original Legend of Zelda is definitely a game that holds up just as well as a game like Super Mario Bros. Brothers does, and to have a nice inspired Game & Watch with Zelda imaging on it would be a really cool thing, and I think much like the Game & Watch for Mario would be a very hot collector's item and something that a lot of people would enjoy. Of course, there's going to be a bunch of Legend of Zelda clothes and things like that, but I don't really care about stuff like that. I'm more interested in gaming related things, and a Legend of Zelda compilation of some sorts is definitely going to come, I feel, but the games that are going to be on it are going to be sort of interesting, because which sort of realm are they going to go into? Like I said, back on the Wii U, we had games like Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD, so to bring those games over to the Nintendo Switch seems kind of like a no-brainer. They're already done in HD. You don't really have to worry about a gamepad or anything like that. It wouldn't be hard to customize the controls for the standard Nintendo Switch, so I feel like those two games are definitely within the realm of possibility, but could they add in an N64 title as well, such as Ocarina of Time? Now, we saw Super Mario 64 get included in the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection, so I do think you could do a trifecta of games such as The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker HD, and Twilight Princess HD. But then again, you got to remember Majora's Mask kind of ties into the first game with Ocarina, so would they want to overlook that game? Could they include 4 games for $60? I don't really know. You know, it's going to be very interesting, but I definitely think there is going to be a compilation of sorts, maybe even 2 compilations of sorts, maybe a bunch of classic Zelda games up until the N64 era on one disc, and then the more modern stuff on another one. There's a bunch of different ways that they can go with this, but I definitely think they are going to do something within the compilation realm. Of course, you also have to consider the fact that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 could end up releasing in 2021. Now, some people feel this could be a 2021 game, this could be a 2022 game, but I feel like they want this game to be a part of Zelda's 35th anniversary because of Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition already releasing. I feel like if they didn't have plans to make Breath of the Wild 2 a release for the physical year from March of 2021 to March of 2022, being The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, because that's when this 35th anniversary is happening, I feel like Hyrule Warriors wouldn't have come out last year. I feel like they could have thrown in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity this year and then done something in 2022 for Breath of the Wild 2 to sort of continue the celebration. But the fact that Hyrule Warriors already came out definitely leads me to believe that we could see The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Now, obviously, they're using the same engine as the original Breath of the Wild, so that should make the transition process of making this game a lot easier because you're not having to build an engine from scratch. You already have all the groundwork laid down. You're just doing things like improving upon this engine and, of course, adding things into this engine. And really, I think Breath of the Wild 2 will come out before March of 2022. And since that's sort of how Nintendo handles their 35th celebrations from March to March, I definitely think it's within the realm of possibility that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 will end up seeing a release in that time frame. And my final thing is actually a very interesting thing because it sort of depends on whether or not Nintendo releases Breath of the Wild 2 for the holiday season or if they want to release it in spring, because I definitely feel like we're going to see a Legend of Zelda inspired Nintendo Switch console. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different ways that they can go with this. One thing that I find very interesting is how the Nintendo Switch Lite came out and then like that was it. They didn't do any additional colors or anything like that, and that seems like a system that you would want to have customizable. So I feel like if Breath of the Wild 2 comes out in spring of 2022, that Nintendo will do a Nintendo Switch Lite Zelda themed system, maybe with Link's Awakening tied into it or something like that, where you could pick it up at retailers during the holiday season. But I do feel like that if Breath of the Wild is a holiday 2021 release date, then you might see that Nintendo Switch Pro that's supposedly coming out this year actually get a Legend of Zelda inspired Nintendo Switch Pro model. Now, of course, we don't know what this system is going to look like. We're just basing it on reports that we've gotten from places like Bloomberg. A 7-inch OLED screen, obviously, it's probably going to be a little bit bigger than the standard Nintendo Switch model on the marketplace, up to 4K visuals, and I feel like Breath of the Wild 2 is a game that would take advantage of this system and definitely help sell this system. So if Nintendo is able to get these two things to line up for the holiday 2021 season, the Legend of Zelda 35th anniversary celebration is going to blow Mario out of the water. Now, obviously, Mario had some hiccups and tie-ups with things like COVID, but with the world sort of getting back to a more normal situation, I feel like the Legend of Zelda Celebration could potentially be a lot bigger than Mario's. And like I said, when you look at the past of how Nintendo handles Zelda stuff and the Zelda property in general, think of how many Zelda inspired systems there have been, such as the 3DS and the DS even, that got these cool Zelda inspired things. Think of all the compilations, all of the re-releases for the Legend of Zelda, all of the collector's editions for the Legend of Zelda games that we've gotten, like that cool big box for the original Hyrule Warriors. I always wanted that. I never got it, but I definitely think Nintendo is going to go all out with the Legend of Zelda 35th Celebration, because Zelda's as hot as it's ever been. It's actually the hottest it's ever been when you look at sales of games like Breath of the Wild, which is actually outselling Super Mario Odyssey. So maybe the Zelda franchise is the new kingpin for Nintendo, and Mario is now in second place. You know, it's definitely something to consider and definitely something to think about. But I basically just wanted to go over what we know about the 35th anniversary celebration and what we could sort of expect from it as well, with some predictions. But let me know in the comment section down below what you think of these predictions. Do you think that that's too much for Nintendo to do? You know, compilations and Game & Watches, because really at the end of the day it's not a lot for them to do. Or what other things do you think that they might bust out with the Legend of Zelda? Maybe a side shoot game if they're not able to get Breath of the Wild 2 out for holiday 2021. I mean, really, the sky is the limit with this right now, and it's a pretty exciting time if you're a Nintendo fan, especially if you're a Legend of Zelda fan like I think most of us are. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Once again, huge thank you to Aspire for sponsoring this video with Star Wars Republic Commando. It's a really fun game, honestly. I've been playing it quite a bit, and I really like it. You know, I'm not the most hardcore Star Wars fan in the world, but the fact that it's a first-person shooter and you can actually aim down the sights, which when this game came out, a lot of first-person shooters, you couldn't really aim down the sights. I think that makes it a very sort of modernized game that really still feels pretty good. So make sure you check out the link in the description box down below, and as always, guys, I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.